Alright, so finally had my first therapy session yesterday. It was late at night. Uh, if there was one thing I wish I had done differently in my therapy session was probably talk less about the things that my wife did that bothered me, that caused me problems. But I did it because I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding some of the things that are going on right now regarding this divorce. Having trouble reconciling some, I guess, contrasts between the then and now. But anyway, during that discussion, it was mentioned how the relationship sounded like it was more bad than good. And people with ADHD, and I don't know how well known this is. I guess it never really occurred to me, but it is true. People with ADHD, whenever they're going through life, it doesn't matter what it is. Whenever they're going through life, the things that are bad that happen to them, the things that hurt them, actually overshadow the things they enjoyed. Whether they want it to or not, it's not a conscious thing. We're not just sitting there trying to find ways to make ourselves feel more pitiful. It's just, and it's bad enough that when we try to remember the good things that happened, it actually takes an extreme amount of effort to do it. But the bad things, if we decide we want to remember the bad things, those bad things are just there. We're like, okay, well, I want to take this period in the relationship and I want to remember a bad thing that happened, and your brain will flood with bad things. I don't remember what it's called. There's a name for it, but the bad things eclipse the good things to such a degree that it doesn't even feel like the good ever existed. And when you do remember the good things, the bad things make it feel like the good was just manipulation. And in all of this, the things that have been causing me the most, for lack of a better word, trauma, has been the good stuff, not the bad stuff. I mean, I've gone through a lot of crap in my life, so I can tolerate bad stuff. Tolerating only bad stuff is difficult, but it's harder to tolerate bad stuff when there's good stuff. Because when it's nothing but bad, it takes absolutely zero effort to remove myself. I'm like, well, I'm not getting anything whatsoever out of this. Why am I still here? It got to the point in the relationship where the good was so few and far between that the bad was all I felt. Because there was still good, even near the end, except for maybe the last 2 months. The last 2 months was nothing but bad. No good times, no happiness, no connection, just being ignored and being told that that's going to be the rest of my life. Before she told me she wanted a divorce. me telling her that I have a need was smothering her. So during this conversation with my therapist, the question was brought up. Why? Is it possible to love a person into healing? Is it possible to love a person into accountability? I don't know. I'm not sure if I ever will. But a question I keep asking my soon-to-be ex-wife is, by pursuing her, am I wasting my time? She says she doesn't have an answer for me. It's hard not to look at that as a game. Am I just being strung along so she can continue to get something from me without having to invest? I love her. And by the messages that I read between her and my mom and my friend, there was a time she did love me. She talked about sacrifices that she made in the relationship in some of those comments. But the one sacrifice she didn't make was the one that was the most important. Changed behavior. Now, I never asked her to become a different person. Unless, of course, unless, of course, by asking her to take accountability and change toxic behaviors made her a different person. And that's something that's necessary for everyone. If you're doing something that's hurting somebody else, you change that behavior. Because you can't keep hurting somebody and expect them to be healthy for you. She kept bringing up how I was too rough in our relationship. She called me controlling, and she said that I disregarded her feelings and everything she asked me for. And I can't say that there weren't times I did that. But I had to learn. I had to see where I was coming from was wrong. I actually had to come to a place where I could see my own toxicity. But while it took me a long time to do it, it's one-sided. She's had the same amount of time I have to do the same thing. And she doesn't even address her toxic behaviors. Except in the case where she tells me that basically, this is the way I am, deal with it. Not in so many words, but the sentiment is there. Where she tells me, well, I feel this way, and despite how you feel, we're going to accommodate my feelings. So if I pursue her, and I win her back, is it going to be more of the same toxicity? Am I going to spend the next 16 years feeling neglected and unloved? Am I going to become, let's just say it. Am I going to become celibate for the rest of my life while being married? We haven't had any kind of contact like that since about 2 months before she told me she wanted a divorce. And even before that, it was maybe once or twice a month. About once or twice a month for about the last 2 years. And I was trying to be respectful by not pushing, not pressing. But you can't neglect somebody constantly and expect them to be healthy. If you are in a marriage with somebody, you can't tell them, this is as far as I will go. You have to deal with what I won't do. And expect them to continue sacrificing for you. You have to sacrifice too. And it's not about sacrificing comforts and pleasures. You have to be willing to sacrifice your egos and your toxic behaviors. If you're not willing to sacrifice that, your relationship will either end or it will be torment for the person you're with for however long that relationship lasts. So the question I keep asking myself, is pursuing her worth it? So that's where my therapy session got me. Is if there was so much bad in the relationship and she showed absolutely no desire whatsoever to change toxic behaviors, what is there that could convince me that that would change? Because even now, in all of this, if I bring up a need, if I try to have a conversation about things that never got resolved, if I ask her if I'm wasting my time, just a simple question as that, she tells me that it's overwhelming and she feels pressured and that I have to stop talking about it. If I can never have the conversation that is required in order to build a new relationship, how can I expect anything to be any different than the way it was before? Or perhaps, how can I expect it to be any better than it was before? The answer is I can't. So even though I am the one doing the pursuing, if I am to continue pursuing, she will have to show me that there is something worth pursuing, which is going to be next to impossible because she doesn't seem to want me to pursue her. But when I ask the question, the answer always is, I don't have an answer. And a person who always says that, that's a person that's either hiding something or wants to string you along so you continue giving effort while they give none. That's someone who wants you to continue trying, but in a way that they don't have to invest. It's, again, one-sided. Whether she's a narcissist, an avoidant, or just scared, this behavior is exceedingly toxic. So now I have to ask myself the question, is it worth pursuing her? And can you love someone into changing? Those were questions I tried to get answered in my therapy session, and I don't think I really conveyed those questions very well. So, didn't really get them answered. Maybe next time. In the meantime, do your work. Find the root causes of your toxic behaviors and be better.